we know that, or at least every new friend makes an effort to propagate the new presentation. And here I want to stress the importance of some little creativity in reaching out to others with our message. Well, it may seem that Duane has done everything, and all we need to do is just to copy and paste it. Uh, I think this is a mistake. Um, I've been communicating with a friend in Britain uh, who first rejected a new presentation, maybe out of fear of betraying the master. Uh, but in my correspondence of late with him, I've not been using Duane's direct works, but I carefully write something on what he wants to know, on the questions he asks. And he now seems responsive already. And then he asked me a question which uh, baffled me. He asked if Duane only addresses people of a certain intellectual level, which means that he finds what Duane is presenting as uh, a little difficult, or whatever, or he judges that some people may not be able to understand what he's saying. But I know that he's gone online maybe and read some of Duane's books, and he's acquainted with what he's presenting, and thinks it is difficult to understand. Um, However, I communicated to him Duane's stand about his own intellectualism, and about his idea that too much intellectualism is a hindrance, to real freedom. Um, I know he's a little dumbfounded when I told him what Duane says about his own education, because he asked me where does all this information come from. So he's a corporation member, and I know there they only talk about the love of God and all that stuff. And then I realized that he had come, that what I had been communicating with him had an effect on him. So I used my own personal technique of presenting him with what he needed to know at that moment. Any questions he asked, I answered them uh, with the view to making him understand uh, in a nutshell what the new presentation is about and who Duane is. So I refrain from just giving him a lump of material to go through, and I'm of the opinion that we act as transformers of what Duane is presenting, maybe in simpler terms, to give people the initial interest without assuming that everything has already been done, that everything is already clear. Um, some find the stuff highly charged, difficult to understand, and I think this isn't made easier by Duane's special language, So the bottom line is that we should maybe develop our own creativity in reaching out to people, um, rather than maybe giving just some stock answers. This will uh, make others, um, come nearer to the new presentation, uh, because of our actions. Some people, it seems they need some security. They need some assurance. They need some human touch. They need some human touch. So if that is provided, they feel more confident to come closer, So we act as maybe some kind of middleman between the person who seeks this, what I call it, knowledge, uh, or who seeks to become more aware, and Duane and the new man and the new woman and the real universes, the real guides. So we act as some kind of transformer, some kind of buffer zone. So I don't know what is your take on this, Duane?
It's very simple, Charles. That's what has always been implied, and so you're getting it now. So the thing is that when I meet somebody, I don't just lay materials on them. I hear what they have to say. I see what they're deciding. Many people, I let them know I'm a writer, and they always ask, "Well, what do you write?" etc. And so I just start from there. And so it just depends upon where they're going. Also, the kind of interesting language that I've created, it's really not for the intellects, just like Paul said too. It's not for the intellect. And this is where the intellects become confused. And it's really very simple once you catch on to it. You really have to learn to read between the lines more so than anything. And the intellects, they read words literally. That's literature. And so you look at why is it that people study things like Sanskrit and Latin and all these other things and all these other language? Why? Those are toughies. What I'm writing is really right out there and very simple. So yeah, to the intellects, what I'm writing is strange because they have their own way of understanding. And yes, most people can't understand that. Where does Duane get all this stuff? In other words, yeah, I don't need to copy or I don't need to read anything. That's not the idea. Everything's come off my own personal experiences and what I see. That's the best part. I don't have to read anything or whatever. If I need information from the world, that's different. That's just information and things going on in the world to and Ava and Kelsey and others. They let me know about these things, or Val, and everybody's doing their thing, etc. I'm not paying attention to everything. I'm just focusing on what I am and setting things up and then kind of maintaining them. But it's not about the intellectualism because I'm not an intellectual. I utilize the intellectual vehicle of myself, which I've created. I've created that vehicle for myself. I didn't learn at school. I didn't become absorbed to be the intellectual. I created that vehicle just for the writings to relate in that particular way, but I don't see it as intellectual. So, people take words thinking that, oh, words, you can write. So, oh, you're a smart person, you're an intellectual, etc. No, it's not that at all. I see what I'm writing is, and what I relate to is what I see. And the best part of my experience is to see what's next from the unknown. But the intellect only goes to the known, the one-dimensional structure of this world, that's where the intellect goes. So when this is presented to them, they can't really relate to it, but people that are not intellectual, that are more, you might say, free with themselves, all of a sudden they start to pick it up and understand it. It just depends upon how geared a person is to the world. So the challenge is there, and is there some perfect way to present this? No. Actually, the sun shining is the best example of what I'm presenting. But you have to learn to see it, you see? You have to learn to see it. And to relate that to an intellect, they're just going to think that, oh, you're fantasizing. Well, actually, yes, because fantasy is closer to reality than this one-dimensional structured world that's been geared to just see things one way, black and white. So then we have the idea of fantasy, where a person's actually looser with themselves instead of structured, and they start to see more. But to the intellects that want to control others, no, they just negate fantasy altogether, you see? And just like children that are having experiences with their invisible friends, that's all negated by the intellects, isn't it? I never negated any of that with my daughter. So this is the world. Do we keep negating it until it's all dark? So there's the decision, Charles. And in other words, that's why I do the homeschool and whatever. There is some light here. There's real light. But to people that are part of this world, all they see is the structure of this world. And yeah, you do see colors, but realistically, how you see it, it's all dark. You're just not seeing it. But you're seeing the phenomena of color. You're not seeing the reality, you see. So this world is opposed to, we'll say, the real awareness and the potential. So, yeah, the intellects rule this world, and the intellects are destroying this world. Look at your friend. Look at the job that he has. Look at where, who pays him, what he's contributing to. He's consciously and unconsciously contributing to the demise of this world. Does that make sense?
I also seem to see the public suffering from what I may call information glut, with all the information we send out there. Seems like we're just stacking the information. Every day, there's something new. Yeah. So, do you think there's the possibility of what I may call some kind of indigestion with all this information dumped out there, Duane?
Do you want to see what we're doing, or do you want to keep seeing what everybody else is doing? Do you notice that anywhere you go, TV, internet, or whatever, there's a commercial with everything? Do you notice that, Charles?
Yeah, I notice.
Yeah. And in the sky, where you drive outside, everything's a commercial, right? Now, from all of that you see out there, and mainly on the internet or TV or whatever, how often do you see what we're presenting? Realistically,
Well,
unless you're looking for it, how often do you see it? Just about never, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So what do you want to see? You want to keep seeing that subliminal stuff, or do you want to see what we're doing? It's like the old saying, trying to keep up with the Joneses. In other words, what we're doing is very minuscule, but it is a lot compared to not doing it. But at the same time, look at the world and how it is. You see? So what do? We do nothing, because basically when you go out in your daily life, you don't see anything that we've done. It doesn't exist. So I would say it's nice to see it if it is there, because it's a little glimmer of light amongst all the shadows that are created. So again, there's a comparison.
Yeah, Duane.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Yes,
I
yeah,
thought,
the whole world is a commercial. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And even on the videos that Kelsey does or others or what have you, they put commercials in them. They take those and they put commercials in them like it's their right to do that, to create subliminals. This whole world is subliminals. So the few images that we have out there comparatively, the images are awesome that we create, especially the ones that Ava creates and others, etc. Just relating to this reality, because again, we are creating references. And there's a difference. The world is creating a reality for people to agree. We're simply creating references that reference the true reality. There's a difference. And this is where the individual decides to become more aware and see the difference. And once they do, they can make the choice. So the amount that we're sharing with the world is very small. And for those that do see it, they're very fortunate because they have that little chance. It's a needle in a haystack. It really is, to figure this out, to find it. Yes, ask again, Claudie and Sandra. They're two excellent witnesses to the fact that, going through a lot and finally finding this, because again, if I hadn't created this and this wasn't here, you'd have nothing here. You'd only have a bad dream to end up with. Yeah, so Paul did the same thing. He had to, you might say, stand against the wind, because the wind wanted to blow him away constantly. And those that step up, yeah, they're going to be battered a little bit by the so-called dark forces because they don't want this here. They don't want any of this here because they want absolute control. So this is the main reason that most people are afraid to step up. They're afraid to go through what it takes to be real. So they'd rather stay artificial with their body types and unconscious and go through lifetimes. Well, that's a choice. They think they're safe by doing nothing. No, you're not safe here. You're in prison. This is a prison camp, but people don't see that. This has been made to look like a la la land, like it's all good, and the heavens of man the same thing. In creation, the astral and mental worlds, those have been made to look like great la la lands, when they're actually just deception of appearance. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. There's experience with everything, but until you recognize this. So again, we're just a small bleep out there, really. And if that's an excuse not to do anything, well, that's a choice. But for those that are doing something, they get the experience, because you got to figure your way out of here. You really do. It's not going to be done for you. This is the passive systems. They don't work at all. Absolutely not. Not one bit. They're just sound good things that are comforting to the personal vehicles. That's it. That's as far as it goes. It has nothing to do with your real awareness. It's a lot of sound good stuff. So I'm really being very honorable in this world, stating that this is not special or sacred writings. It's just really a good reference to the isness that the individual has to take the time and figure out for themselves, because that's their part. So yeah, we're just a very tiny part of this, Charles, but fortunately we're here for everybody.
okay, Duane, we are here in this last, the Sanskrit scripture say, last yuga, which is characterized by wars, dissension, all kind of upheaval, and people look for ways to stem the nature of this age, maybe through some kind of admonitions or trying to curb arms sales, disarmament talks, and all the like. But this is a warring universe. Do you think the wonderful worldwide educators should also engage in this kind of let's say working against the nature of this age, what it is all about? We know that it is all demise, futility. So what are we supposed to do then? Respect the nature of this age and be concerned about our own awareness, our own real awareness, or do we look for ways to turn the last yoga into a golden age?
Well, all that sounds like a lot of work, Charles. So again, especially the last part there, turn this so-called last yuga into a golden age. I don't see it as a last anything. These are cute stories and ideas, and I know Paul referred to them. But again, Paul structured things in a particular way, and it's really not that at all. Okay. The overall life is an isness. Creation is just simply a small part of the whole of life, but it seems really big because we're in it. Okay. So just like a baby in the crib seems like everything. As long as you're looking at those little bars around you, it's like, gee, I'm trapped here. But as soon as you get outside of yourself, you see there's a whole new world and many, many worlds. So I don't look at that. Maybe Harry does because he's the so-called modern day prophet. And so I don't get into these ideas of prophecy and the ages, etc. The demise that I refer to is what people have decided. I'm not saying that things are going to end. That's not the idea. That's misunderstood. Or that there's doom or whatever. What I'm referring to is the created consciousness of individuals that they don't see. It's almost like people want to end everything because they've been through a lot of lifetimes, and it's hard here in creation. It's really hard. Even when it's the good times, it's still really hard every day to keep oneself up, to keep their front up, to keep the ideas and maintain everything. It's really hard. So in a way, a lot of people have been around, thousands and millions of lifetimes, and they're tired. They're really tired. It's like, gee whiz, and they still haven't recognized something because they don't take the time. So they're almost welcoming the demise of what they've decided, just like Sandy saw with the big chain around the world choking itself. Yes, it's not the world doing that. It's the consciousness that people agree to. And so this is where the adventure comes in. I can say, I can create this in any way at all. I could create it very literal, okay, which would relate to people, make it very structured in a particular way. And Paul really kind of did that. He already did that. I'm making it kind of more fun to where it's, we're releasing the restrictions and the confinement, and we're taking a chance to see something that's unknown, not just things that are specified. Okay? That becomes the fun part, and it works with certain individuals, not everybody, because a lot of people are stiffs. They really are. They like their literal mind. They hug it, and it's very important to them. And so, again, I know people like this. I've been with them, and it's fine. And they don't see what others see. So, we're in a very interesting position. I see it as This is the new nowness. The new nowness has nothing to do with the yugas, the golden, the silver, the bronze, the Iron Age, etc. These are ideas created from situations that have taken place, just like prophecy and all these things. I don't relate to any of these things because, yes, they do exist. They have their place, of course. But again, I'm always pointing to, seeing the bigger view. And again, if you want to follow those ideas, etc., I'm not following those ideas. I'm not saying that this is the last age, etc. Creation will always exist. It's the big nursery school for the unaware souls. We'll use the idea to go through. It's needed and it's continuous. And it'll always exist as it does. The creation, or the part that we're seeing, or the so-called last yuga, or whatever it is, this is just one dimension out of endless dimensions of creation. This isn't the only one. It's endless. There's no end to it. And each creation, just like each person here has their own life, their own worlds, etc. And each creation has its own consciousness, and it's endless. This is not the only one. So I see what makes sense in that is that become aware of your real awareness, and you'll see all of it and not just be limited to this dimension here that's been specified as creation, because it's not the only one. It's just a little minute, it's a speck of dust compared to the other creations, and creation will go on and on simply because, again, it's part of the isness. But the isness that I'm referring to is the real universes where, yes, you are a free being of real light without any restrictions. So again, I'm providing the possibility. It sure is a lot more fun. What did Paul talk about? He said, well, it's not that you have a soul, you are soul. And then he defined the so-called spiritual ideas is what he did. Because again, he was providing the disciplines to go through. Okay. This is not what the new presentation is about. It is not about the disciplines. This is where people look for a doctrine. It's not. It's like a bunch of kids having fun and sharing their experiences as they're in time and space. That's really the idea of this. I like it a lot better.